Humble apologies in advance in case of any pronunciation errors. Om Shri Krishnaya Parasmai Brahmane Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotapatyadi Hetave. Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Namaha. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha. Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah. Komalam Kujayan Venum Shyamaloyam Kumarakaha. Vedavedyam Param Brahma Bhasatam Purato Mama. Guruvayur Puradhisha Prasida Karunakara Purushottama Vaikuntha Tvai Sarvam Samarpitam. Let us all do namaskaram at the lotus feet of the great Bhagwan, who is Sat, Chit and Ananda Swarupa, who is the ultimate cause of the creation and also the existence and the disappearance of the whole universe. The same Krishna was born as Vasudeva's son, and when Vasudeva was happily wonderstruck seeing the most beautiful form, Tamalbhudam Balakambhujekshanam Chaturbhujam Shankha Gadaryudayudham Shrivatsa Lakshmam Galashobhi Kaustubham Pitambaram Sandrapayoda Saubhagam. The baby Krishna consoled them, saying, Yuvam Ma Putra Bhavena Brahma Bhavena Cha. When Krishna appeared in all splendor before Devaki and Vasudeva, they knew that it was Sakshat Purusha Prakriteh Paraha. Vasudeva had experienced his presence in his mind and had explained or rather portrayed the whole luminary form, and the ever great Devaki was lucky to have him in her womb for all these months. Vasudeva was so happy that tears came to his eyes. Ananda Bashpa Pulakodgama Gad Gadartha, and he could hardly talk as it was choked, and horripilation all over, and heart was melting, so to say. The first Leela of this Ananda Rupa was becoming like a normal child at the behest of Devaki Devi, his mother. When he appeared before Vasudeva and Devaki, he was Chaturbahum, Shankham, Chakram, Gada and Pankajam, each having a purpose and showing them that their son was not a normal child, but one who can protect them and also destroy those who are against him. Lakshmi Devi was shining in his chest to show everybody that those who surrender themselves to him will be always blessed by Lakshmi Devi, the wealth. He was looking happily at both the parents with his resplendent eyes. Kataksha Vimoksha Bhedaihi. After looking at one for some time and giving happiness, he will turn to the other parent with the same beautiful eyes, and with these looks giving them absolute happiness. When we think of that, you are reminded of the great Krishnatam Kali forms in Guruvayur, where the little boy in the sweet Krishna attire, Avatara Krishna, as he is referred to with his beautiful smile looking at one parent and then beautifully turning his face to the other parent. Even seeing this is a great state of mind, so imagine how the newborn Parabrahma come as all protector, and the one with his presence made the whole prison inside the room look as if Dvadishaditya Sannibha, shining as many suns are shining at the same time. After hearing the praises of Vasudeva and Devaki, they both knew that he was God himself. The mother asked him to become normal child. Krishna told them about the two former births of them. In the first, Vasudeva was Sutapa and Devaki was Prishni. For them, he, Krishna, was born as Prishni Garbha. Both Sutapa and Prishni did a lot of tapas to get a child, and Prishni Garbha was born after much of their prayer. In the next birth, the parents were born as Kashyapa and Aditi, and much pleased by their vrata. Aditi did Payovratam very diligently, as told by Kashyapa. Observing all the rules of vrata, to them he appeared as Vama, the great Vamana avataram of Bhagavan. This was their third birth as Vasudeva and Devaki. As requested by Devaki Devi, the mother, he took Manusha Vesham and told Vasudeva to take him to Nandagopa's house, where Maya Devi will be born at the same time, put him there and to bring Maya Devi back here to the prison room. When Vasudeva took the child in the hands, all the chains broke from his hands and legs, and doors were opened without making any noise. All those who were instructed to keep awake to tell Kamsa about the childbirth fell asleep, and none of them knew that Vasudeva had stepped out of the prison with a beautiful Krishna in his hand. This Krishna can be only seen in dhyana by great saints, not really visible, And the great Vasudeva, the blessed father, had the good fortune to hold him in his own hands. And Krishna in Vasudeva's hands looked like a small little sweet swan. Look at his bhagyam, holding the great Lord in his hands, and the door giving him way, allowing him to go to Nanda Gokulam. As Bhagwan himself had told him, Vasudeva kept the darling Krishna near Yashoda, who had just given birth to a baby girl. Yashoda did not even properly see whether it was a girl or a boy, as she felt asleep. That was Bhagwan's prerna. Then Vasudeva took the baby girl Maya Devi in his hands and walked out of the house without anybody noticing him. It was not yet morning, there was no light as such, and happily Vasudeva was near the river which he had to cross again to come back to Mathura. While Adishesha protected them from pouring rains and lighted the place with shining hoods, while coming back, Bhagavatam says, the river did the magic by giving him way. Margam dadau sindhuriva jagatpatehe. Once he reached the prison without any problem, suddenly all the doors were closed and even he himself was under chain. After that, the Maya Devi was given in Devaki's hands. The soldiers guarding the prison room suddenly got up, hearing the little girl crying, and ran to Kamsa to inform him about the childbirth. Kamsa, who was all along thinking about this, only rushed immediately to the room and was astonished to see a girl instead of a boy. Devaki appeared to her brother Kamsa not to kill the youngest one, a girl that too, but Kamsa had no soft nature. He pulled the baby from Devaki's hand and tried to kill her by holding legs and to strike her on a stone. But lo, the baby flew away from his hands, went up, and in clear tones told Kamsa, Are durachara nrishamsa Kamsa, parakramam strigalilalla venda, tava antakam bhumi tale janichu, javena sarvatra terinyu kolga. Your enemy is born elsewhere. You can search for him soon and find out. Hearing this, Kamsa got peace of mind. He called all his advisors and told them about the happening, and they in turn advised him and consoled him by telling that they will kill Anirdishan Nirdishan, all the children born within 10 days, so that it will include the one prophesied to kill him, and they began searching. Meanwhile, in Gokulam, Yashoda, the Mahabhaga, the lucky one who got Krishna as her own son for her to do everything for him, feed him, bathe him, and above all, see his beautiful, beautiful smile always. And Nandagopa, the all-excited one, was so happy that the arrival of Purna Brahmam in the family gave Dhanam to Brahmins, decorated the house, and ready to give all precious things to whoever came to see the baby. In the Dashama Skandha, in the 5th Adhyaya, those few slokas from 1st to 18 are real gems. Sri Suka Brahmarshi is virtually showing us Nanda Gokulam, gopis, gopas all wearing their best clothes, exchanging goodies, showing him Bhagwan's presence made the whole place look like heaven. Tat arabhya ramakridam abhun nripa. He tells Parikshit, who is heartily listening to the virtual nectar flowing from Sri Suka's mouth. Twan mukham bhojachyudam harikathamritam mehasravah parayanti brahman anashanadabi. I am not feeling tired, although I have abstained from eating, Parikshit says. Then comes a lady to Gokulam, all dressed in beautiful clothes with a beautiful face and a beautiful form. She was hiding her real bad nature with all this. Her name was Putana. When she came, although nobody knew her, nobody said no to her as she looked very friendly. Without any delay, she took Krishna in her lap and started to give her breast milk to him. Krishna, the all-knower, acted as if he is innocent by closing his eyes. Once he started drinking, he took her prana and did not suck the poison that she had put on her breast. Being unable to withstand the pain of sucking off her prana, life itself, by Krishna, she got into her natural form of Rakshasi and cried, saying, Muncha, Muncha, leave me alone, enough of it, and made a big noise by falling down with her very big form. Gopikas and Gopas were saddened to see little Krishna on the big figure of Putana, and the Gopikas somehow picked him from there and did japa for his safety. asking God to protect the great God. In Bhagavatam, Dashama 6th Adhyayam 35th Sloka. Putana Loka Balagno Rakshasi Rudhirashana Jighamsaya api haraye stanam datvat sadgatim Kim punha shraddhya bhaktya. If this Rakshasi, whose nature is to kill little children, who is used to drinking blood, and who came to kill Krishna, got Sadgati, what can you say about a real Bhakta who prays to Guruvayurappan and surrenders himself? What will he get? There are many more stories in Bhagavan killing the Asuras like Shakatasura, etc. etc. Each of them cause indifferent like Shakatasura in the form of a cradle. Trinavarta came as wind, and while Yashoda had kept the baby Krishna down for a while, took him and flew with Krishna, holding to kill the baby. In this case also, Bhagavan tightened his hold on Trinavarta, and the big Asura fell down. A big figure and a little Balakrishna was playing on his chest as if he did not know anything. Our great Bhattatripad has a very nice request to make at this juncture. O Krishna, if you can kill a big Asura that has come in the form of Vata or wind, it will be so easy for you to cure my disease, which has come as Vata Roga, pun of words here. So please relieve me of this Vata. Narayaniyam 43 slokas 10th. Vatatmakam danujameva mai pradhunghat vaton bhavan mama gadan kimuno dhunopi. Garga Muni, who is a great sage who had mastered all the Shastras, and he was Yadukula Acharya. Once this great rishi went to Nandagokulam to do the Namakaranam of both the boys born there. Nandagopa received him very happily and requested Gargacharya to give names to the boys in a very secret way. As if made public, others will doubt about the Yadukula Acharya naming them. After all, Nanda was from a cowherd family. As apt as it can be, he gave Rama and Krishna as their names, and the names carry much meaning. How can you give name to a boy who has 100 names? After that comes the very Janubhyamapi Gachantam, beautiful way of their reaching the whole house on their 2 hands and 2 knees, with their knees Bahubhyamapi Sundaram. Any child going around like this is so happily seen by everybody. So imagine these Mohana Rupa boys with the bangles in their hands, malas in the neck and anklets on their legs, swiftly moving on the floor, which too shine looking at their own faces on the floor, try to play with their reflections. When the sound of anklets is heard, they stop to watch from where the sound comes, but the sound steps as they turn and see. Soon, they come to the stage when they can walk a little bit. The gopis and gopas were very fond of him, and seeing his childish pranks wanted Krishna to come to their house every day. In every house he had friends, and with them he started stealing milk, butter, etc. from the gopis' houses. This is described as Charuna Choranena. Only God Krishna's stealing can be called endearing. He did so, as even those who say about Bhagwan's stealing will come out of the papam of stealing a person has done. The young ladies, the gopis, were so fond of him that they used to tell him to dance or sing and say that in return they will give him milk or fresh butter. And to please them, he did that, and also used to help them in bringing little things for them. But the little Krishna was so fond of milk, curd, butter, and such things that he used to go to a few houses to steal, which became as a blessing for the ladies. Many times they just wanted Yashoda to know all that and used to lock him up in the room in their own house. But when they went to Yashoda, little Krishna will be with the mother, and they did not want to tell her. Sometimes these gopikas used to keep butter on top of many other vessels that it was difficult for the little boys to reach, knowing fully well one boy will climb on another, and in that way they will reach the top where the curds are kept. When gopikas come, Krishna will break the pot, keep all curds in his mouth, spit right into her eyes, so that she cannot see anything. In the meanwhile, all will run away. One day, Yashoda got up little early, as some servants were asked to do other work, and she decided to churn the curds herself to get fresh butter. Little Krishna, with his beautiful dress, ornaments, and in a little hurry to drink Yashoda Amma's milk, sat in her lap and started drinking. Before long, the sound from the kitchen was heard by Yashoda to tell her that the milk is boiled fully and overflowing. Soon she had to go. She kept Krishna there and rushed to the kitchen. Krishna, pretending that he got angry because he was only half finished sucking the milk, broke the pot of curd with that churning rod itself. When Yashoda came, seeing the whole curd split on the floor and not seeing Krishna, knew who the mischief doer was. She decided to tie him up on a pillar, took a rope, caught hold of Krishna, and then to tie him up, and that was 2 inches short. Again and again she brought ropes, but always it was short of 2 inches. When Yashoda was tired of bringing, Krishna allowed him to be tied. Yashoda knew that with her skill she can't, only when me and mine goes from a person she is alright. As Yashoda went inside to do other pending work, Krishna went to the courtyard in the back of their house. This is the great Damodara Leela, and Krishna was tied to the mortar. The rope being tied to the udara of Krishna, Dama means rope, carrying the mortar along, he passed through 2 trees, and the trees fell down with some great noise. There stood Nalakunara and Manigriva in that place and did big stuti to the little Krishna. End of that. Let our words be in praise of the Lord, our ears be able to hear the stories of the Lord, our hands be able to do God's work, our hearts be in your lotus feet, all indriyas in Bhagavat Seva, and our eyes to be able to see good people. Satam Darshane. After they are blessed and they go away, Gopals and Gopis, hearing the sound, come and are surprised how such big trees fell. The boy says that only by Krishna's passing through this has happened. Of all Balakrishna leelas, Brahma Mohanam is very important one. Brahma has come out of Nabhi Pankaja, Bhagavan's son actually. When Pralaya came and Brahma could not do Srishti, he praised Bhagavan and endowed him with all the knowledge of Srishti creation. When Brahma had any problem, Bhagavan advised him, and all Brahma stutis are great, full of meaning, etc. In all avatars, even before Krishna avatar, Brahma realizes the importance of Bhagavan. In the Varaha avatar, Bhagavan came out as a small figure from the nostrils of Brahma, then became very big as an elephant, as a mountain, and he was praised by Yajna Varaha Murti and killed Hiranyaksha in the end. Brahma was the person to tell Bhagavan to kill Hiranyaksha before Sandhya time. In Vamanavatara, Bhagavan appeared as their child to Kashyapa and Aditi. Before his avatara, Brahma knew that it was Bhagavan himself appearing before Kashyapa and Aditi and did a great stuti. Before Krishna avatara too, Brahma's stuti is very great. He wanted to tell everybody about Krishna's greatness. One day, Gopas and Krishna decided to have their afternoon lunch to be taken by themselves so that they can play in the Vrindavana, uninterrupted till evening. After playing for some time, when they were tired, they decided to eat their lunch. Everybody went to see Krishna, and so they sat in such a way, in a semicircular way, where Krishna was facing all the boys. The shorter ones were in front in a neat row. It was Sri Suka Brahmarshi who had described this great sloka. Bibhrat venum jadhara patayoho shringa vetre chakakshe Vame panau masrinakabalam tat phalanyangulishu Tishthan madhye swapari suhrido hasayan narmabhi swahi Swarge loke mipati brubhaje yajnabhuk balakeli. This sloka is very important. It is said that Sri Suka Brahmarshi, who was always immersed in the Lord, who was above worldly objects, became so happy to hear this sloka from his own father, Vyasa Bhagavan, that he decided to study all Krishna stories, which alone will give him complete happiness. Bhagavan, who is not always keen on participating in the offerings given to him by the knowledgeable yogis, was very keen instead to sit with these gopas. The cows were nearby searching for food. First, Brahma, by his Maya, took away all the cows from there, and they could not see. Krishna told the other boys that he can go and search for them. When he went, Brahma took away all Krishna's friends too, away to his abode. Krishna knew that it was Brahma's work. Another shloka is there. Yavat Vatsapa Yavat Karadhyadikam Yashti Vishan Sarvaswarupo Babhau. Krishna took all these forms of the cows, calves, children, each child's different vessel, and in fact Krishna in the form of these and the form of these children was amazing. As usual, all went home, and even parents did feel more love towards these children, those whose form was taken by him. This went for a month, and even Balarama was wondering how the cows loved their elder calves and younger ones in the same way. After a year, that is, one day for Brahma, he was surprised to see the same children without any difference in Vrindavan and in his own place where he had hidden them. He knew Bhagavan Krishna is Paripurna Avatara and started praising him in many slokas. This stuti is also very great. After telling about his greatness, he says, Adobhagyam Nanda Gopa Brajaukasam Yan Mitram Paramanandam Purnam Brahma Sanatanam. The bhagyam or luck of Nanda Gopas, even Braja, where he lived, is unimaginable. Purna Brahman was playing there in Vrindavan with all of them. Adobhagyam. It is for us to understand the greatness of Krishna's Balakrishna Leela that Brahma did all this. A little before that, Krishna had killed the great Aghasura, who came in the form of a big serpent. The serpent, with his mouth wide open, which looked like a cave, was seen in the way. The boys were playing, thinking that they can play inside the cave, so the boys got in. They too had their own doubts that it was a python's mouth, as bad smell was coming from that. But the Gopas knew Krishna was there with them, and all went into Aghasura. And Aghasura was waiting for Krishna too to get in, and when he got in, closed his wide mouth, and all of them were inside. Krishna increased the size of his body so much that the throat of the python broke open, and all of them could come out. All flowers came pouring down from Devaloka to greet this great event, as Aghasura was very evil. But a light from his body went up and reached God. From that time, Brahma wanted everybody to know of Krishna's greatness. Bhagavan has always said, Bhaktyaham kaya grahya, bhaktihi siddher gariyasi. In many places, Krishna has proclaimed this. He was born in Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga came when Krishna left this world. In Kali Yuga, he has given darshana to many bhaktas, of whom Vilbamangala Swamiyar and Kururama are the most popularly known. In Tamil Nadu too, there were so many bhaktas like Andalamma, the famous Alvars, and innumerable bhaktas who could see all the Bala leelas in front of them, and they were very happy praising him and singing songs praising him. Tan tathaiva bhajamyaham. Kururama lost her husband early in her life, and luckily for her, she knew that Krishna Bhagavan is the only source of strength and happiness for her. When she started caressing the boy Krishna as her own son, Bhagavan Krishna too, in the form of a beautiful boy, helped her in all her activities. He brought flowers for her to do the puja for himself, brought other things like banana, sugar, butter and such things which were his favorites, and became a part of her house whenever needed. When the lady became old and could not do many things, Krishna even helped her to put all the puja things in order. All the lamps were lit by the young Kanna himself. All things like fruits, camphor were all ready for the puja. In short, Krishna became very important at times, that he will eat the fruits even before the puja and disappear from there. One day when such a thing was happening, Kururama caught him red-handed, and as she could not think of any other punishment, asked him to go underneath a big black pot and placed it on him, asking him to stay until she finished her puja, etc. During those days, it was a routine that this same naughty Balakrishna present himself before Swamiyar also, as he too was a much devoted bhakta. When Kururama opened the pot, she felt very sad as his whole body had become black because of the soot inside the pot. These pots were used for cooking those days. The soot won't go away so soon. He escaped soon from there to give darshana to the Swamiyar, who was waiting for the little Krishna. When Swamiyar saw him with all soot on the little body, Balakrishna told him that he had to undergo punishment under his mother Kururama. Swamiyar became a little jealous to think that Kururama had so much freedom on this Krishna. In her old days, when Kururama became that helpless and could not even eat or drink by herself, the boy Balakrishna came to feed her at proper time, asking her to eat a little more. So caring the boy became. One day, Vilvamangalam Swamiyar had come somewhere near Amma's place where she wanted to call her for food. Swamiyar always travelled with his followers, and there was much paraphernalia. Somebody else, a rich man, also knowing that Swamiyar had come nearby, asked him to partake food in his house, and he decided to go there instead of Kururama's house. Where Swamiyar goes, it was a custom to blow the conch to tell everybody that he has started from the house. Now this time the conch would not blow at all, although all of his followers tried to do it in turns. Then Swamiyar knew why it was so and told his followers to change the route and go to Kururama's house instead. To the surprise of all, the conch regained its sound, and all came to Kururama's house. There they were received by a small little boy who gave them Padyamarthyam, etc. with all respects and acted as a very smart host. To everybody's surprise, an enjoyable lunch was there, and when the guests sat for food, this little boy cared much about each person's needs, and that nobody said anything. In olden days, it was a custom not to talk to each other or even utter a word about the food till all finished and got up. They had not tasted such good and tasty food and was admiring the little boy who was all in that household. The guest and hostess Kururama were absolutely happy, and who else other than Balakrishna can do such a thing like that? His Bhakta Paripalanam and Bhakta Vatsalyam is shown here in the highest degree. Sri Narayana Bhattatripad, author of Narayaniyam, was experiencing that this boy is the same as Vaikunthavasi and most highest of all the gods, Hanta Bhagyam Jananam. When he says about the Bhaktas in Guruvayur, Bhagavan Krishna transcends the Trinity because of his sattvic nature. Brahma has Rajas, and as form of Shiva implies destruction, has Tamoguna qualities in him. Sri Shankara is one person who has understood this, and he says that Brahma and Paramashiva has other qualities than Sattva in them, as theirs involves Srishti. Is needed for Rajas, you want in a certain way, which is Rajas. Sri Shankaracharya wrote commentaries on Vishnu Sahasranamam and other Vaishnava books, and in the end, to achieve moksham, after saying Vishnu Bhujangam, he made Devi Bhujangam and Shiva Bhujangam before that, but got complete peace after making and repeating the great Vishnu Bhujangam. Sri Shankaracharya, it is said, saw Guruvayur temple from above while travelling on an Ekadashi day, came down and saw all the bhaktas there in Chaturbhuja. All had 4 hands like Vishnu. It was Shankaracharya who ruled that all can enter this temple on the great Ekadashi day. Even now the puja vidhi done there is what is prescribed by the Sri Shankara. The greatness of Guruvayurappan is never ending, and nobody can ever think of knowing or telling about that. There it is, Satchidananda Rupa. You have to really experience it. You might be able to count the sand in all places, but the greatness of the great Lord cannot be measured. Pundanam Ngiri is one bhakta who has experienced that in recent times. He used to go to Guruvayur every month and come back walking, as in those days there were no vehicles. When he became a little old, he could not walk the whole distance at one stretch and decided to do his Sandhya Vandanam in a place where he could see some water and relax for a while. By the time he was getting ready for restarting, he heard the sound of a few robbers. They were asking him for money and were trying to attack him. As he said, he had nothing valuable with him. Ho and behold, at that time, a person came on horseback who looked exactly like the Mangatachan, on the personal caretaker of the Zamarin, as he is called. The robber ran away at the sight of him. Pundanam was so relieved and thanked him very much. When he tried to give him something, he said that it was his duty and not to bother. Again, Pundanam insisted on his receiving at least a ring from him, and that was accepted by this person on the horseback. Somehow Poondanam reached Guruvayur by night and decided to go to the temple the next day as it was closed. And those days there was no rush and the temple used to be closed early. That night the chief priest, or the Melshandi Nambudri as he is called, had a dream. Bhagavan told him to be careful when he takes out the flowers in the morning, and that he will see a golden ring in his hand, which has to be handed over to Poondanam. Melshandi did as he was told and was waiting for Poondanam. Poondanam came early to the temple and was thanking Guruvayurappan for protecting him from the robbers' attack. Now you can imagine the surprise of Poondanam when he received the ring from Melshandi. When he told about what had happened to him on the previous day, all praised Poondanam, who could not see anything because of the Ananda Bashvam, and at the same time praised Bhagwan for his Bhakta Vatsalya. Even in this yuga, by Nama Sankirtanam alone can one attain that sort of peace of mind, which yogis achieve through years of practicing yoga. There is one story which has happened about 70 years back. A number of boys came to the temple to pray there, and they were very happily playing with a Manchadi Kuru there, which is always kept open there, and playfully they took some for themselves, as it was beautiful to see. One Devaswam saw this and wanted to punish them. He asked them to run around the temple 12 times. As it is, they have not eaten and were feeling hungry, but they had to listen to avoid stricter punishment. They were only 9 boys, but they could count 10. Again they started running. 9 boys, but while counting there were 10 boys. After the whole thing was over, Devaswam manager could find out that the 10th boy was no other than our Balagopal. And this Balagopal, that he felt so sad about the sad punishment given to them, ran with them. As he took the punishment on himself, the boys were too dear for him. When Krishna ran with them, they did not experience any tiredness. There are countless instances of the God as a little boy helping many in many different ways. You are sure to experience some of his kindness when you have complete faith in him. The great devotee who wrote Krishna Karnamritam says, Sri Rama is great, but I want to give namaskarams to the little Balakrishna who has a Venu in one hand, peacock feather on his head. So please leave the bow and arrow from your hand, and then I will bow to you. This sloka also tells us how beautiful Balakrishna Rupam and how easy it is to get little boys pleased, and he is a Parama Tattvam. Satyam Param in the most beautiful form, Dhimahi Tattvam. This same Parama Tattvam could act as ordinary little children to steal the hearts of all Gopikas and Gopis. One day, when they were just above 5 years of age, after bath, were given nice Kasavu and were standing in front of the mirror. Suddenly, both of them started crying, and Yashoda and Rohini could not appease them. They said that they did not want an ordinary dress and would not stop crying unless they were promised to get the things they wanted. They, little Krishna, after thinking for a while, said that he wanted beautiful shining anklets that will make sound when he runs, nice yellow pitambaram, a nice kinkini which has got a shine on it, a few nice malas in his neck, urdhva pundram with sandal paste on his forehead, and a little peacock feather to keep on the nicely combed hair. Balarama too wanted all these things, with a little difference. Instead of yellow patte, he wanted blue shining patte, and he did not want the peacock feather. What little pranks, and sure the doted mother agreed. With all that, they will all look like the Adhika Sumadhuram Rupam that Bhattatripat saw and described in Narayaniyam. The slaying of Dhenukasura was done by Balarama, but prompted by Krishna. It was as if Krishna was intended to protect the cows, and so did not want to kill an asura of the name Dhenuka. Then comes the giving of moksham to the great Kaliya, the serpent. One day Krishna with a few of his friends was missing. Yashoda and Nanda Gopa and the other boys too were concerned, as it was quite some time since little Krishna was missing. Even Balarama was not with him. In the meanwhile, with a few cows and calves grazing, they reached near Kalindi river. They were all thirsty, and without thinking otherwise drank the water from the river. To their surprise, all lost consciousness, and one by one they all fell down. Little Krishna with his looks gave them all life by just glancing at them. They were themselves surprised how they lost their consciousness, and was revived by Krishna's looks. The cow too got up and felt as before. Krishna's aim was to drive Kaliya, the poisonous serpent, away from there so that he and his friends can play there, drink the water, etc. There was a tree on the bank of that river where all the other branches had gone dry because of Kaliya's poisonous breath. On one branch, Garuda had kept Amrita for a minute, and that alone was fresh. Krishna jumped into the river, and because of his weight, the whole water level rose up. Nobody had ever come to this river, Kaliya thought, where he had made himself comfortable with the intention of killing. Kaliya stung Krishna. Krishna, being no ordinary being, but God himself, escaped from him with much ease, took hold of his tail with one hand, and the next moment he had reached the hood of this Kaliya. Sahasrafana, he had, meaning 1,000 hoods. From one hood this side, Krishna jumped to one on the other side, and when Kaliya raised one hood on yet another side, Krishna jumped onto that. Akhila Kaladi Gurur Narnatam is the short meaningful words Sri Suka Brahmarshi has used to explain this dance. Wherever hood was raised, Krishna, the little boy of 5 or 6, would jump on that with his mridupadam. Soft, sweet, red feet. From heavens, flowers fell on him, and you could hear drum beats from up there, matching well with the sound coming from Bhagwan's anklets. Bhattatripad says, Jahyashuhu Pashupaha Tutushur Munayo Vahyashuhu Kusumani Surendra Ganaha Twayi Nrityati Maruta Gehapate Paripahi Samam Twamadanta Gadat. Beautiful picture given here. The wives of Kaliya pleaded with Krishna to give Kaliya his life. They realized Krishna's greatness and also said that Kaliya is really very lucky that Bhagwan's feet were on his head for quite some time. Krishna released Kaliya and asked him to go out of the river so that he and his friends can safely drink the water. Then comes Pralambasura, who was also killed by Krishna's brother Balarama. Dushta Nigraham, that is killing of bad and destructive asuras, was one of the purposes of this avatara. And to hail the devas from heaven poured flowers over them. Or swallowing of the wildfire is another very important leela of this Balakrishna. When summer came, once there broke out such a huge fire enveloping the whole place, and they could not see each other. Pahi, Pahi, protect us was the only word the Gopas knew when any calamity arose, and Bhagwan's love towards his friends is shown everywhere. He told them not to worry and asked them to close their eyes. Alamala Bhitya. And by the time they were asked to open their eyes, it was as if nothing happened. This shows our Krishna's supremacy over the element fire. Or he swallowed the whole fire, shows that Agni Pibat, a little Krishna of 5 or 6, can destroy the whole fire in a split second. All the elements are under him. Suryastapati Madhyat. He has said in Gita and has shown in many places during his Bala Leela as a little child, when he was asked to open his mouth, Yashoda, fearing that he might have swallowed little mud, the mother could see the whole world in the little boy's mouth. Surya, Chandra, rivers, oceans, etc. Everything. When Yashoda was much bewildered seeing this, he shut his mouth as if nothing had happened and asked his mother for her breast milk. Whenever it is too much for his mother, Krishna becomes a normal child again. As in the case of tying him with a rope and finding it impossible for herself, in the famous Pundana Moksham story and Kaliya story, he shows that any poison won't affect him. In the Trinavarta story, shows that any type of dangerous, furious wind is not going to affect him. Each Leela is just to show that he is the protector and he is above all. As Krishna grew a little more, Gopika started loving him. His playing on the flute, the whole dashakam of his playing on the flute is so beautifully described by both Shuka Brahmarshi and Bhattatripad. It was divine music, and the cows, calves, and even birds were listening to the Tara Tara Madhuraswaram. Gopikas were so happy when Krishna was with them that they felt very sad when he went into the forest, etc. during the daytime. There is a very beautiful sloka Bhattatripad has given us. Ragastavat jayate hi swabhavat Mokshopayo yatnathas syat navasyat tasam tvekam tad duyam labdhamasit bhagyam vayugehadhinatha. It is natural that attachment is there between people. It is difficult to get moksha. You might or might not get it, but in the case of Gopikas, it was their luck, bhagyam, that both become one, meaning to say that loving Krishna, they could achieve the last achievement anybody can have, the best one, the coveted one, to get moksha. They got both at the same time by just loving Krishna. The Vastrapaharana Leela, or taking away of the clothes of his friends, is a very famous Leela of this age of Krishna. Gopikas were enamored by the beauties of this little Krishna that they decided to pray to Jagadambika to get Nandagopa's son as their husband. The famous important sloka, Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayoga Vyadhishwari Nandagopa Sutam Devi Patim Me Kuru Te Namaha. All these girls are wanting that one Krishna, and they after bath made god figures out of mud and are praying. Bhagavan just wanted to play a trick. He took all their clothes, hanging them up on a tree, and asked them to come up to take their clothes by themselves. At first they were a little hesitant, but in the end they went up, took their clothes. Bhagavan told them that he knew their wishes and promised them that after some time, when Sharad Ritu came, he will make them all happy. He told them that it was not the mere kama, the usual love, which we all refer to, that he is expecting from them, but for them to understand that he is above all that. He is Parabrahma, and all living beings, whether masculine or feminine, have to reach him to get absolute happiness. We are all human, Jivatmas, must reach the Paramatma. There is other beautiful story of Vipra Patni Moksha. When Krishna and Rama were hungry one day, they sent a few of their friends to a place where yajna was being performed by Brahmins and asked for food. When the boys informed about the presence of Krishna and Balarama nearby and their purpose of getting food for them, they acted as if they didn't hear it. Sadly, the boys went back and told about what had happened. Krishna told them to go again and ask the wives of the Brahmins to give them some food. When they heard the news that Krishna and Rama asked for food, they forgot everything else and took as much as food they could carry and went to see their dear Krishna. Krishna and Rama with friends ate the wholesome food very happily and blessed them. One lady who was not allowed to go there got moksham just by the thought of Krishna. The Brahmins now realized their foolishness in not accepting the gods as such, and when they personally appeared, the ladies did the proper thing and were praised by their husbands. It is a well-known fact that this lady reached God just by thinking of him with her whole heart. Step by step, Krishna shows his godliness to all. Govardhana Leela is yet another important Leela performed by Balakrishna when he was just 7 years old. Once Nandagopa was getting things ready for a big puja. Krishna asked his father whom they are going to worship with so many things all arranged. The father told the son that Indra gives rain to all. All the vegetation around was dependent on God Indra. The cow and all of them are living because of the abundant fruits and vegetables and trees, he explained. These Krishna agreed that they get everything because of the Govardhana mountain which holds the trees, etc. And so they have to do puja to the mountain. As Nandagopa had not heard of a fact like that, he did not want to say no to his own little boy, as Gargacharya had specifically told Nanda to go by all Krishna's wishes. Nanda decided to accept Krishna's words. Krishna was very happy and told all the Gopas too that Govardhana puja can be done with those same offerings as that were made for Indra's puja. Children too liked the idea, as Krishna was keen on making eatables like appam, muruk, etc. in big quantities. And an interesting thing happened. Govardhana assumed form and ate whatever was offered and also blessed them all, saying, I am very happy with your puja, etc. The main pujari was little Krishna himself, and he with his friends and father went around Govardhana, as they were most happy that their offerings were consumed by the mountain itself. It was Krishna in the form of the mountain taking the offering too, without anybody being aware of it. Naturally, Indra, the rain god, as he is called, got very angry with Krishna, the little boy, who was the cause of all this. Indra did not get puja, etc. And naturally, he decided to give them a punishment. He ordered all the rain, clouds and winds to appear, and within a short while, the whole Gokulam was plunged in water. It was at this time that this 7-year-old boy uprooted the whole mountain from the place and held it on his left hand and held it like that for 7 days. taken out the whole mountain, one big round place was created naturally, and Krishna asked the people in Vraja to come to this place, where there won't be any rain, as Govardhana, as a big umbrella in Krishna's hand, was protecting all, and not a drop of rain came inside. All cows, which was their wealth too, were protected this way. With one hand holding the mountain, with the other hand he was caressing the cows, etc., and talking to all this time, not moving a bit from where he stood. When all rain clouds were exhausted and Indra could not send any more, the sky became clear and it became dry again outside. Slowly he made all move out of this place to the outside ground. The mountain was placed back in its former place, and it was as if nothing of the sort had happened. Now Indra realizes the truth of it all, that Krishna was not an ordinary boy, but the avatar himself. Coming with Kamadhenu, Indra did Abhishekam at the lotus feet of Krishna and apologized for the inconvenience made by him. Kamadhenu, the divine cow, anointed the lotus feet of Krishna, saying Govinda Govinda, who protects cows, and with this Krishna got his beautiful name Govinda. Abhishekam for this with Ganga Jala was brought by Airavata, Indra's elephant, Airavrata. Seeing all this, Gopas were surprised and wanted Nanda Gopa to tell them all about what Gargacharya had told about little Krishna. Krishna is Sarveshwara, about all the other gods. Then comes the great Rasa Leela, the crown to all his other Leelas. Indra too has understood that he is Paramatma. Tvam hi sakshat paratmana. Your dress may be just like a cowherd. Now I have realized, Indra too says. Bhattatripad thought throughout proclaims that he himself has appeared in Guruvayur. Whenever Bhattatripad wrote something which was not there in the Bhagavatam, he cleared his doubt, asking that straight to the Murti in Guruvayur, and unless he got the answer, he would not go forward. In striking the vessel of cured, Bhattatripad felt that Krishna must have hit it with a stone and got the answer yes immediately. Describing Narasimha Avatar, he closes the Dashaka saying he cannot write anything more unless he sees that Ghora Narasimha Rupam himself. It is said that Narasimha appeared before him in his dream and could write those great slokas describing Ugra Narasimha. That also tells us about what a great Bhakta Bhattatripad was, and how out of Bhakta Vatsalyam, all-knowing God helped him in every way. He is there to help all who are thinking with him in their full heart. If the thought is sincere, ever present, then God will definitely give moksha. Gopikas, when they did Kartyani Vratam, Krishna had promised them that when the proper time comes, he will make them happy by being with them on those nights. On one full moon day, when the atmosphere was cool, Bhagavan Krishna, he was 10 years old at that time, played a most beautiful tune on the flute. The Gopikas were doing housework. Some were cooking, some tending to their little children, others were looking after their husbands' needs, and few were dressing themselves. With one earring put and other yet to be done, hearing the Venuganam, all of them rushed to the place from where the great god Krishna played the flute. Although Krishna first advised them to go home and look after their home and family, they were intent to stay with him. And it is said that in their houses too their presence was felt. Those who could not come there actually thought of Krishna with all their heart and attained moksham then and there. On Ashtapadi or Gita Govindam, Jayadeva, the great poet, has described Rasa Leela thus. Each Gopikas was given a different place to dress themselves up, and when they came out and danced with Krishna, it was celestial. Kachit Karambujam Shauraihi. One lady took Bhagavan's hands, put it on her shoulders, and attained utmost happiness. When Bhagavan found them a little too proud, thinking that Krishna loves them the most, he disappeared from their sight. The Gopika Geetam, the famous one beginning with Jayati Tedhikam, expresses their deep feelings towards Krishna, whom they had loved so much and has disappeared suddenly. They ask the trees, flowers whether they have seen their Atipriyo Achyutaha, most beloved Krishna. They forget themselves and started acting funny, enacting all Krishna's leelas, right from Putana Moksham, one became Putana and the other Krishna. Seeing them almost mad searching for the Lord, the great Lord appeared before them. Bhagavatam appeared as Jagat Trayi Mohana Mohanatma Tvam Tvama Virasita. There is no mention of Radha Rani in Bhagavatam, as it is said that Radha's intensity of devotion towards Krishna was so much that by uttering Radha Devi's name, Sri Suka Brahmarshi will go into the state of ecstasy, of unconsciousness, of bliss, and won't be able to say anymore. Only he says, Anaya Raghito Nunam, and it is back of that Krishna carried her on his back. For the most sincere bhakta, he will see that I and mine are gone before he accepts them. Bhattatripad mentions, when Radha Devi has a little pride thinking that Bhagavan is very fond of her and liked her the best, he disappeared and then she can't talk to him. Bhagavan is most captivating than Cupid or Kamadeva, and after seeing this most beautiful form, they were overjoyed. Kim Kim Chakruh, meaning you can't tell fully what all they did. It was as if they were drenched in nectar. Some were angry towards Krishna for leaving them like that at night. Bhagavan consoled them by saying that it is only for their good that they could not see him. The intensity of seeing becomes more when you don't see one at once. And far away, Bhagavan told them that he was with all along and he is indebted to their love and loyalty. You, Gopikas, are the dearest to me, Krishna told them, and now we will enjoy the great rasa dance together. These beautiful women decorated themselves as Krishna too came out, dressed immaculately. He had his hair adorned with peacock feathers, fish-shaped earrings adorned his ears, beautiful necklace and fresh malas adorned his neck. One shining golden girdle was tied on the beautiful yellow shining pattu that he was wearing. Pita Chela Ghrita Kanchika, fresh sandal paste smell was emanating all around, and from his gem-studded anklets rays of light came up. The Gopikas too came out with their most beautiful attire. Their shining earrings were dangling on their cheeks. Their upper clothes and lower pavadas were shining. Bhagavatam describes their Leela as Rasotsavaha Sampravritto Gopi Mandala Manditaha Yogeshwarena Krishnena Tasam Madhye Duyorthyo. Leela Sukha in Krishna Karnamritam says thus, Anganam Anganam Antare Madhavo Madhavam Madhavam Chantare Nanganam Ithama Kalpite Mandale Madhyagaha Sanjagau Venunam Devaki Nandana. Between two Gopikas, one Krishna was there, and between two Madhavas, one Gopika was there. Imagine the beauty of the scene. This Balagopal, just 10 at that time, the girls between 10 and 12. Even the picture of this Rasa Leela, we feel so happy. So can imagine the real stage and the real dance, hearing about the great Rasa Leela from Sri Narada Devas. From heaven came out and watched that from the sky. Bhagavan played on the flute beautifully according to the tala or the beats. They did dance, their bangles and anklets making noise in unison with the beat of the song on the flute. Valyanam Nupuranam Kinkininam cha yopitam Sapriyanam bhuchaptaha Tumulo Rasamandale. When the Devas found this nritam between Krishna and Gopikas, the tunes going up and down in perfect accordance to the Shruti, being celestial dance, they put flowers on them. Bhagavan himself is more beautiful. Saundaryotaratopi sundarataram, out of compassion to the Gopikas as they loved him the most, and for them this Krishna was everything. They were that devoted and they want nothing else in this world other than their Krishna. Parikshita asks Sri Shuka, Krishnam viduhu param kantam, natu brahmataya mune. They approached him in that way but achieved the most Jiva Brahma Aikyam, is what Rasa Leela is all about. Gopyastu Shratayo Nyeya Rishija Gopa Kanyakaha Deva Kanthascha Rajendra Na Manushya Kadachana. Bhagavan was Yogeshwara, and the first thing you have to remember is Atma Rama. He does not need anybody for being happy. Bhagavan api taratrihi sharadol phul mallikaha viksharantu manaschakre yogamaya mupashritaha. He was Yogeshwareshwar, not an ordinary human. The Phalashruti, Rasa Panchadhyayi, or these 5 adhyayams, Dashama 29 to 33 in Srimad Bhagavatam, Shri Gharacharya says, Bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya kamam hridrogam ashwapadinoti Achirena Ghiraha. Rasa Leela is said to be Bhagavan's Kandarpa Vijaya. The mere repetition of these 5 adhyayams with full faith in him will rid you of heart problems. The good fortune of Vasudeva and Devaki to get a child like Krishna is immeasurable. Yashoda sa Mahabhaga. To get Krishna as your own child, love him, giving milk and butter and everything else makes him happy. From Putana, he gave moksham to all who had the good fortune to be with him. Let us all surrender to him. Shri Krishnarpanamastu.